The US has been very busy, and I don't just mean our World Cup victory. The US had some key news events today leading up to NFP on Friday. Remember, you can watch the huge NFP news event on the A1 channel during our daily live streams. Prelim quarter-over-quarter GDP came out this morning for the US, and it was slightly better than expected, coming out at 2.9%. The JOLTS job openings also came out better than expected at 10,300,000 jobs, 900,000 better than expected. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is set to speak at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time today ahead of the NFP event on Friday, and this is sure to cause the US pairs to swing one way or another based on what he has to say. So far, however, things seem to be looking bullish for the dollar based on these jobs events. I want to remind you that our Black Friday sale is ending today. Our biggest sale of the entire year, a massive 40% off all our products in the store, including the Edge Finder, is ending today. So don't wait any longer and take advantage of this massive 40% off discount by using code A1YT in the links down below. Now, on to the Edge Finder. All right, guys, so here we are in the Edge Finder. And like I just mentioned, our Black Friday sale is ending today. So if you want this amazing market scanner and all of the incredible features that come along with it, our market heat map, access to all of these economic news, the smart money tracker, so you can see what institutional traders and hedge funds are doing with their trades, our Fed tracker showing you US dollar impact, stock market impact, gold impact, retail sentiment, price forecasts, all of this fundamental analysis, and access to all of these different currency pairs, indices, and commodity breakdowns with score bias signals for buy or sell. You can get it. Today is the last day to get it for the massive 40% off. So use code A1YT. Don't wait any longer. Today is the last day to get it for 40% off. Go check out the links down in the description below. Again, code A1YT for 40% off. And while you're checking out those links, there's some other interesting stuff down there too. Like you can get access to our free Discord, free Telegram. So there's lots of useful stuff down in the description below. Make sure you go check out the links. And make sure you use code A1YT for 40% off the Edge Finder. Today only is the last day. The sale ends today, so go check it out. All right, so let's see. Not much movement again here today. New Zealand dollar pairs still seem to be at the top. NZD CAD is still our strongest buy with a score of +6. We go down here, Euro NZD, Aussie NZD, and GBP NZD are still our strong sells, so no real change there. We did have some US news events today, and our biggest news event of the month potentially is NFP on Friday.
Hey traders, would you like some help with technical analysis? Well, lucky for you, we're giving away a free technical analysis guide. That's right, completely free. It's an entire guide all around technical analysis. The guide includes subjects like support and resistance trading, MACD indicators, trend lines, candlestick pattern trading, RSI indicators, and much more. So make sure to click the link in the description, fill out that information, and we'll email you a technical analysis guide right away.
So perhaps we'll check out a US dollar pair ahead of that, USD CAD potentially, because we have taken a look at a lot of New Zealand dollar pairs. Before, you know what, just because we were checking out some US events, why don't we check out the Fed tracker so we can take a look at our inflation rate and interest rate forecasts. So currently sitting at 7.4% inflation and 4.5% interest rates. Things are beginning to look pretty bullish for the dollar, especially off of these good news events. Of course, NFP is coming out on Friday, and if that goes better than expected, that will be very, very bullish for the dollar. So yeah, why don't we take a look at a US dollar pair. We did have some Canadian dollar news earlier on in the week, so potentially USD CAD has a nice little score of 3 and is giving us a buy signal here. Again, we already looked at a lot of New Zealand dollar pairs, so why don't we go ahead and just look at USD CAD today, get some updated US dollar numbers. We had Canadian news earlier on in the week, so we can get some updated Canadian dollar numbers as well. And then of course on Friday, our huge US news event NFP is coming. So Here we are in the USD CAD breakdown page, score of +3, like I just mentioned. Our COT data is a score of +1, and our retail sentiment is a neutral score of 0. So if we come right over here, we can see that institutional traders are very heavily favored long on the dollar, 72.9% long, only 27.10% short. And for the Canadian dollar, sitting close to 50-50 at 43.15% and 43.15% long and 56.85% short for the Canadian dollar. Retail sentiment, on the other hand, retail traders are starting to lean favored short on the pair as a whole. 43% long, 57% short here. And the reason that this is getting a neutral score is because we don't consider it to be favored long or short until it crosses the 60% threshold. So we can see here with the US dollar, a score of 72.9% long is definitely a heavy favorite on the long side. Definitely crosses that 60% threshold, whereas this one for the Canadian dollar institutional wise has not yet. Same here with retail sentiment. It's only 7% across that 50% mark, hasn't crossed that 60% threshold. So yes, they are slightly biased towards the short side, but not enough for us to give it a score one way or the other. Seasonality, on the other hand, has a score of +1, and we can see that historically speaking, in the last 10 years and the last 5 years on average, this pair tends to do better in the month of November, meaning that the price point where it comes in at the beginning of November, it typically finishes higher than that price point in the month of November. However, so far in the current year average, that has not been the case. Looking ahead at December, we can see in the last 10 years that tends to be the case as well, but in the last 5 years, not so much. So potentially seeing this pair not do as well, although things have been turning around for this pair over the last couple of days. If we look at our trend reading right here, our trend reading is showing a score of -1, and our price forecast is predicting that this pair is about to move back down, potentially falling into a bit of consolidation, as we've kind of seen right here. We did break out of these higher highs here when we're looking at this this last 2-week chart. We can see that ever since November 25th, we have seen some upward momentum here, but things are pointing towards a little bit of consolidation, maybe even a trend back downwards for this pair. Now, I should also mention that we score trend reading differently than we score the rest of these. Either COT data, retail sentiment, seasonality, and all of these things either get a score of +1 or -1. Trend reading, on the other hand, can get a score of +1 or +2, -1 or -2. So a score of -1 is not a very strong trend score. If this was a score of -2, then it would be very clear and obvious that this market is trending downwards. Because this is a score of -1, the software is predicting that over the next couple of days, we could see this potentially begin to consolidate, or at least move down from this high that it has created so far today. That is what it has been doing so far this month. We can see that so far this month on the current year average, we are down 0.1%. But yeah, so we're looking at a potential move to the downside in the next couple of days. Our fundamental analysis here, GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates, come out to scores of +1, -1, +1, and +1 again. And we can look at our fundamental data right here. So US dollar GDP growth 2.9% compared to Canada's 0.7%. US unemployment sits at 3.7% compared to Canada's 5.2%. Inflation in the US is slightly higher than Canada, 7.7% compared to 6.9%, and we can see that's where we get that one negative score here. And lastly, interest rates for the US sit at 4% compared to Canada's 3.75%. So of course we have that was our breakdown of USD CAD. I should mention I normally don't point out the upcoming news because the upcoming news is things that are going to happen that will potentially have an impact on the dollar one way or not the dollar, but the currency pair one way or the other. But I want to go ahead and point this out because I think this is really interesting. We have Fed Chairman Jerome Powell set to speak in 2 hours and 32 minutes. Now, I think that is such a cool feature because, like I mentioned in the news briefing, that whenever the chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, speaks, depending on what he said, these markets tend to fluctuate one way or the other. Things have looked pretty good for the dollar based on these new job events, and we'll see what NFP has in store for us on Friday. But we can see here that in 2.5 hours, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is set to speak with an impact on high, meaning that these pairs will definitely move one way or another based on what he has to say during that news event. So that's just another really cool feature that the Edge Finder has for you. If we want to take a look at the market heat map really quickly before we finish up our major pairs for the day, we can see that the US dollar pairs are kind of split. GBP USD down 0.34%. USD JPY is up 0.64%. That was flipped from yesterday. I believe yesterday Aussie USD was our biggest mover to the upside, whereas USD JPY was actually our biggest mover to the downside. The indices, similar to yesterday, haven't moved a whole lot. UK 100 is almost up 1%. US 30 down 0.61%. But other than that, not a whole lot of movement from these other major indices. If we look at the pound pairs are down today. Euro pairs are also down today, except for the yen crosses. We can see Euro JPY, GBP JPY, USD JPY. So yen is definitely on the move here. NZD JPY, CHF JPY. All of our JPY pairs are up today. So that's interesting. Aussie pairs, not a whole lot of movement. NZD pairs similar. Swiss franc pairs similar there. Not a whole lot of movement. Again, if you're not familiar with what the market heat map is, this is our biggest or how much these currency crosses have moved today so far. So for example, I can see that NZD USD so far on the day is up 0.17%. That's what we're looking at here. So yeah, guys, if you're interested in the Edge Finder, again, all of this amazing software tools that helps make your trading that much easier. If you're interested in this, today is the last day of our Black Friday sale. Use code A1YT for 40% off. This is the last day you can do it. So if you've been thinking about getting it, now is the time to do so, because after today, the sale goes away.
Now, check out this analysis featuring TraderNick.
Euro New Zealand is running nicely here this morning, you guys. We've got the trade open from the stream 2 days ago where we initially took the trade. So we're still running hot. This week's trade is going very, very well with that initial entry up here at resistance. Real quick, as we get started here on the stream, let me remind you, if you're new to the stream, we do these Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. US Eastern. I don't want you to miss a stream, so make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and click the notification bell. We're going to be doing some chart breakdowns as well as some top trading setups for today. Nick, did you poop today? No, I didn't. Just a little TMI. I haven't yet. It's coming. What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here. Ezekiel, Trading Tradition, King David, PJ Plays Games, Twan. Good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. So a couple things to talk about here. First of all, the trade that I'm in on Euro New Zealand, you can probably see the reasoning behind the trade. In hindsight, it is awesome and very clear. We retested a level of resistance. We drew our fibs from swing high to swing low. And as price pulled back, I ended up picking it up on the short side here at past resistance. So nice start to the trade. And one thing that I really liked about Euro New Zealand was that when we came down to this little counter trend, we actually failed on the buy side to hold this. And that little breakout ended up being a nice flush to the downside. Let's take a look at Euro USD, which continues to chug higher here. Now, what we'll notice here is that if you're watching Euro USD, recently we've had a lot of bullishness on this chart. Now, I don't have a huge opinion on this one on the long side, but we have to give the bulls the credit. What we can see here is that buyers are pretty dang strong, and each attempt at each attempt retesting support has been met with a lot of buy pressure, as you can see here and here. So if I'm looking at Euro USD, the directional bias here for me is up until further notice. Now, I'm not actually willing to go long on Euro USD, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what you should know is that in terms of market structure, price action right now is leaning towards the bulls, I would say. You have a major level of resistance here at the previous top. This is going to be your point of interest when it comes to sell side is pretty active up here in the 1.045. If price is able to get back up to those highs, what we should pay attention to is to see if we can actually, in fact, get a breakout of those highs. If we get a breakout, buyers may have another run here. I think that's the only point on this chart where I'm really interested. Of course, I'm not actually interested to buy euro dollar, and I'll talk about that in a second. Fundamentally, I'm actually pretty bearish on this thing. And so for me, if I was to trade this, it would actually be on breakouts the other direction. Like, for example, if we started seeing support levels fail, right? If we started seeing this scenario, then possibly like sells on retests, that would be more my interest. Why am I short biased on this? Well, it is mostly due to fundamentally, I prefer the dollar over the euro at this point. And we could talk about that really briefly here. The euro USD, actually, let's take a quick look at the market heat map, see what's moving today, and then we'll possibly come back to euro dollar. So here's the dollar crosses. Today, the New Zealand dollar, the Aussie dollar, the pound dollar, the euro dollar, and the dollar yen. These are all up today, whereas dollar CAD and dollar Swiss are down today. On the major indices side of things, you have the UK 100 is up today. If you take a look at euro pairs, look at that euro yen, you guys. Euro yen up tremendously, and yen pairs across the board very, very strong. Seems like the yen is a big loser today with New Zealand yen up, Aussie yen up, CAD yen. If you're trading the yen pairs on the long side, then congrats, you're probably sitting in good trades right now. You've also got Swiss yen up big time today. You've got New Zealand again taking the lead, New Zealand JPY on the long side. And really quite the impressive move for some of these yen crosses. And we'll get into that for sure here today as we discuss some of the pound yen, for example, is one I'd like to talk about, etc. Now, we take a quick look at the euro dollar, like I mentioned. On the euro dollar side of things, I do have a sell bias, but the technical side is still bullish. Now, fundamentally, GDP, inflation, unemployment, interest rates, I'm tending towards selling the euro USD. So I want to be short biased on it, but technicals still telling me to be bullish. So where does that leave me? Well, if I'm fundamentally bearish and technically bullish, there's no trade for me. You guys, if you're a regular on the stream, you'll recognize that idea. It's a pretty common thought process. We like fundamentals and technicals to align on these streams before taking trades.
Make sure you guys check out the links in the description if you need broker recommendations, access to our free Discord, or want to chat with us on Telegram. If you're interested in our trading software, the Edge Finder, you can find that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.